All right, so we're gonna get started. So, I want to use this time as more of a discussion. I am talking about relationships. That's what we're all talking about, and I want to get opinions from you. I hope we can have a discussion more about relationships with students. With Blaine, Liz, and Charnay, they've talked a lot about relationships, and it's going to kind of be basically the same idea, but hopefully we can share thoughts and opinions and specifics about how to build relationships with students. So I do have a few quotes, and then I'll kind of ask some questions and then open it up to you guys. Something that I was looking up is relationships. I think, as most of us would do if we had a talk, I went to lds.org, and they have some great stuff. So this one says, life's greatest joys and also its greatest sorrows come from the relationships we have with others. In fact, our existence is quite dependent upon this interaction with individuals and with groups of individuals. I found that really interesting. Some of our greatest joys that we can ever have, and think about your students, think about it specifically with your classroom. Some of the greatest relationships I've had has brought me some of the greatest joys. Seeing students be successful. I'm a math teacher, for those of you that don't know, up in the upper grades. When they grasp a concept that I've been teaching them for a while, I feel amazing. Like, oh wow, I taught them something, or they learned something, whether it was me or not. I'm really excited for them. If they do successful or do really well on a test, I'm excited. If they don't meet their objectives, if they do poorly on some things, I feel sorry. I feel sorrow. Just based on some of these relationships that I have, if we can be disappointed and we can be really joyous in those relationships. Now, building relationships. In my mission, we talked a lot about building relationships with people. As we would go to door approaches, we'd need to build a relationship in order for them to open up. And something that we can talk about here, which I really love, is we also needed to build relationships of spiritual trust. And so we always talk about BRST, build the relationships of spiritual trust. This is a wonderful place to be able to build relationships that rely on the Spirit for learning, and then we can really grow together. One of the tightest knit groups that I had was my MTC group that I was there in the MTC with. And the reason is because our teacher challenged us to pray for each other. As we prayed for each other, specifically, whether it was in our personal prayers or in group prayers, if we prayed for each other, we became stronger and tighter than ever before. And I think that we can do that here in the schools. We can pray for each other specifically. As you share devotionals, ask your students if there's anything that they need or that the group can pray for. And I promise that if you do that, the class will feel so much tighter knit, and you'll be able to build that relationship of trust. I have one more quote that I want to talk about and then kind of open it up to you guys. This is from a lady, Jeanette C. Hales Beckham, and she, back in 1994, she was in the Young Women Presidency. So it says, "Why is an environment of trust important? I believe it is in an environment of trust that growth takes place. We feel safe to acknowledge mistakes and make corrections. We are more likely to do our best when we feel love and security. It is a place where the Spirit can be felt. I often ask young people what they think it is like when we live with our Heavenly Father. Usually they respond with words like safe, happy, secure, beautiful, and additional thoughts like, we learned there. I ask, do you think you could provide a place like that for someone else?" So think about heaven. Think about how amazing it is in heaven. Like they said, safe, happy, secure, beautiful. And then I really love the next part. It's a place that we learn. Those are the places that we can learn the best. When it's a safe, happy place, learning can really take place. And that's, I think, such a key to our classrooms, is building a safe place. A place where students, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to raise your hand and give the wrong answer. It's okay to think outside the box, kind of like they said before. But I want to open up to you guys now. How have you guys found in your classrooms, how have you found ways to build a safe place where the students feel it's okay to make mistakes?
I think that kind of what we talked about earlier, when they answer a question or they answer, even if it's off topic or if it's the wrong answer, just making sure that they're validated and that they know, like, even though it's the wrong answer, doesn't mean that you're a bad person. So validating them.
Perfect. Yeah.
I think letting them know that you really want to hear their responses and their input and their insights. I always think, you know, as a learner, when I was in school, I was one of those that would just kind of float by and sit in the back and maybe have something important to share, but maybe think different thoughts like, well, it's not that important, or maybe this doesn't apply. So making sure that I get to every learner, even those who might be a little bit uncomfortable, I find that as the year goes by, it helps them to feel more confident. And when they're feeling more confident, they're more disposed to engage in learning. So letting them know they're important.
Absolutely. Becky, how about you?
I show them that I'm human. I make mistakes. So if I'm willing to admit that I've made a mistake, it's okay for them to share that they've made a mistake.
Of course.
For me, I'd say it's when I try to relate. I mean, I like to go back and talk about when I was in elementary school, how Jeremy was talking, just was really talkative, and then I've tried to push myself as much as I can to be more outgoing and such. And so I've noticed when I've done that, a lot of my more quiet students, they try to do the same.
Anything else? Again, for those of you that just came in, I'm wondering, how do you build relationships of trust, or how do you build a safe place in your classroom?
What I learned so much for my students this year. First and foremost about individual learning styles. Actually, I would say that, especially in the last couple of years, but I've had such diverse learning styles in the past couple of years that I would say that I haven't had before, but I think in reality it's that I haven't recognized it before. But I had several students this year who were absolutely auditory learners. Putting it on a piece of paper, they really struggled, but they could verbalize their answers so well. And when we build on that and allow them to have more opportunities to share orally and to express themselves, to show that they really do know the information, or you know, sharing whatever, I think then they feel validated in that they really do know what's going on, and they do have a level of understanding that's just in a different way.
Anybody else?
This is Miss Updike. When she's having a particular problem with a student, she believes in meeting with them personally and individually. And often teachers do that too, to not bring it up in front of a whole class. But she'll she'll say, "Can you please stay during lunch or after school today? I'd like to visit with you." And then she'll also have that time to kind of cool down from what has happened and to approach it out of love. And someone brought up earlier to ask the clarifying questions, and then she'll continue to say and put it on them that say, how could you handle this better, or what do you realize? Are you aware of what you've done that a better choice could have been made, or what do you think a good solution would be? For 7th grade, that it goes over well, but then they say, then she'll also tell them, they say, do you think that this kind of behavior has a consequence? And almost every single time they'll say, yeah. So that makes it easier then to say, well, this is what the consequence is going to be, and this is how we're going to proceed forward. So that they realize that these kinds of actions are things that need some kind of disciplinary approach, but that it's been, and then that outpouring of love. So after the consequence is given, then they say, we're going to make this, we're going to have even better times now, we're going to be able to get through this and make better choices, and you're a wonderful person, and this is why. And so that outpouring of love, and to have that moment where you meet with them personally, because thank goodness teachers are not given 30 students that are discipline problems. You know, it's usually, we know who they are, and you meet with those ones individually, it makes a difference.
Well, before I get here, I wanted to mention something that you said. A lot of these times, well, students are smart, whether they're in kindergarten or they're in high school. They understand the world a lot better than we probably think they do. And if we ask them about their actions or consequences, they're really smart at coming up with things that are right or wrong. And letting them figure out what the consequence is usually I've asked students, like, well, what do you think the consequence should be for turning something in late, or for whatever your behavior was? And they're usually more harsh on themselves than I would be. But helping them realize that what the consequence is, that their actions have consequences. They're really smart, and they want to be treated that same way. So if we're not patronizing, if we ask them what they think, they're really pretty good at giving their opinion and being smart and intelligent about it. Did you have something?
In the beginning of the year, I would always tell my class how I felt when I was going to college. If I raised my hand and got an answer right, then I just gave a right answer. If I raised my hand and got the answer wrong, then I listened harder, and I learned a lot more from getting the answer wrong than I ever learned from getting it right. So I'd say, your best answer is the wrong one, because that's when we'll learn the most. And if you gave a wrong answer because you needed another piece of information, then probably most of the class is thinking the same way you are. So you're opening the door for us to learn some more. And then when they'd answer or raise their hand, I'd say, oh, who's our courageous one today? Or who's our adventurous student who's going to help us learn some more? And that way, they didn't have to be afraid. They got to be the hero for helping us learn instead of the one who gave the wrong answer.
Thank you. A couple of things that I wrote down, and again, you've already said some of them, but I wanted to reiterate it. So the things that I was thinking, it says, we as teachers must first show what respect looks like, then and only then can we expect to receive some in return, not the other way around. We need to be able to show that respect. Even if they are being disruptive, we can still be respectful in the way that we talk to them, and then they can show us respect later. Another one that I think is, I kind of touched on a little bit, is learn how to say, I understand. Whether it's with them talking, not turning in work, showing up late, uniform. When you ask them what happened and they're going to tell you, they just want to know that they've been heard. If you can say that I understand where you're coming from, it's still not okay, but I understand what's going on, and I want to help you with that. They'll be able to feel they'll feel responsible, and they'll feel like they've been understood. And I think that's what just we as human beings want to be understood. It's not just for students. Even as adults, if we were to go and talk to the administration, we want to feel like we've been understood or that we've been heard. And so it's not just with students, it's with all people. Another thing, and they talked about it in the other presentations, but be interested in the student's life outside of the classroom. Talk to them about their sports, about their recitals. They'll feel really connected to you. And you can make really good, long-lasting relationships. And then something that I've been thinking about, I teach math, and math is not everybody's favorite subject. For the most part, it's their least favorite subject. And realizing that and helping them realize that that's okay, I've really built some strong relationships. I've told people, okay, I don't care if math's your favorite. It probably isn't. School may not even be your favorite thing, but we still need to work together to improve and to get better at things. And a quote that a friend of mine is a teacher, he put on his whiteboard, it says, a test does not define you, your effort and perseverance do. And helping them understand that just because they failed a test in a horrible math class doesn't mean that I don't respect or love them. It just means that we need to work harder and that we can work together to achieve those things. I only have about 30 more seconds. So, I was talking with my wife. She said that I need to come up with something for you guys to remember some of this stuff. So I'm going to come up with Ruva. That's the best thing I can come up with. For us to be able to build relationships of trust, the first one I'm going to say for R is be real. Be who you are. Be authentic. We're all individuals. Just be who you are. Don't try to be fake. Students can tell if you're being fake. Just be real. For the U, be understanding. Tell them that you understand where they're coming from. A lot of us have been in their own shoes or gone through experiences that they've gone through. V, this one's a hard one, but be vulnerable. Like I said, it's okay to make mistakes. Show the students that it's okay to be vulnerable, and a lot of learning can take place. And then the last one is be available, especially for the upper grades. There's a lot of times where they want to come and talk to you outside of class. Make yourself available and give them the opportunity to express themselves one-on-one. And I know that we can build really strong relationships here, not just with students, but with each other. And I think that this, RUVA, is something that we can remember. Being real, being understanding of people's situations, making yourself vulnerable, and being available will be able to help build some of those relationships. Thank you.